Hi everyone, welcome to the Pilsconnect YouTube channel. Today we are continuing the series for the fellowship application process. My name is Marissa Brooks. I am the head of video content and communication for Pils. I'm a previous ASHP fellow and I currently serve as a wellness pharmacist. Today we are going to be talking about how to utilize LinkedIn with two of my colleagues who have been through the fellowship application process themselves. Thank you for joining me today, Tola and Yanni. Do you want to go ahead and give yourself a little introduction?
Sure. Thanks for having us, Marissa. My name is Yanni Adere. I am a medical liaison at Novo Nordisk in the liver health team, and I'm also the head for classroom and career for the Pharmacy Initiative Leader. Happy to be here today.
Hello, thanks for having me here. My name is Tola Akinoye. I am a first-year fellow at Sanofi, and I'm also the director of the Pils Protege program with the Youth Pharmacy Initiative Leaders organization. So happy to be here.
Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about everything LinkedIn, and I'm just curious, I want to hear from both of you on this one. What do you think is the best way to utilize LinkedIn?
I can go ahead. So I think the best way to utilize LinkedIn is to first understand the amount of amazing tools that it offers, right? I think that I know when I started using LinkedIn, I think maybe I was in my first year of pharmacy school. And I did not necessarily do my research to know all the things that I could do. I just started using it. And sometimes that's just the best way. But like if you just do a simple Google search or a simple YouTube search on how to use LinkedIn to its best capabilities, you can actually find more. You can find different groups to join. You can adjust the settings in a way that notifies you in a way. You can make your profile available or viewable to recruiters. There's so many tools that are actually embedded within the LinkedIn to make it a powerful tool for you to obtain a fellowship or an entry-level job. It's just a matter of for you understanding it. So I would say start by, even for anyone that's already been using LinkedIn, I would say start by definitely just checking to see what are the best things or secret tools that LinkedIn has, and you'll be able to make the best out of it. That's one. I think the next thing is also being consistent. That's something I'm personally working on. I think a lot of us are, where we have so many great things we're working on day by day, but we don't necessarily put it on LinkedIn to showcase our efforts in the community, the service that we provide, the excellent accomplishments that we have, or even the fact that we're looking for fellowships or jobs, right? So I think that it's very important that you use LinkedIn consistently in a matter of celebrating your accomplishments, sharing not just for yourself, but for others, any jobs that you see that might be great for somebody else, but not for you, looking and sharing at different articles, and also even writing articles yourself. I think that a lot of students, I feel like, would love to have articles that go viral or that are actually useful and actually used by people that use them on LinkedIn. So I think you can also have, you can use LinkedIn in a way that actually allows you to publish on there as well. There's so many ways, but I think another thing you can also do is network, meaning find opportunities. I remember when I was looking for a medical affairs fellowship, I would just write medical affairs fellow and the search bar for LinkedIn, and it will pull up everyone that's either connected to me or is connected to my second connections that has medical affairs fellowship, right? Because everybody would have it on their LinkedIn. So meaning I already have an idea of who the medical fellows are within my close network, and then second and third networks, right? Or the connections. So that way I already know who to go to. It's simple. You literally start messaging people who you feel aligned to in terms of maybe values, if you know them personally, or if you've seen them and what they post, or if you're just curious to learn about their specific role or their specific company, but using that as well in a way that kind of gives you a broad group of people to then identify and really dive into what actually makes sense for you and what's aligned with what you're looking for. I think in addition to that is just really, I think I already said mostly all of it, just being consistent. I would say being consistent, post it, exposure. I mean, I can't say that enough. I remember when I would go to conferences, I would post it. I would absolutely post it, and I will immediately connect with people who I've met from the conference call on LinkedIn. And what that does is it will put my face and name closer to the people that I'm trying to work with. So they would be like, oh, I think I've seen you post that. That's happened to me before. I remember my Ethiopia rotation. I went to Ethiopia and posted about it. And somebody from my interview was like, I think I did see that on LinkedIn that you went to Ethiopia to do your PharmD fellowship. I mean, not fellowship, but rotation. I said, yes. And it was a conversation piece. So you never know who's looking. So the last bit is also exposure.
think Yanni hit the nail on the head with this one. So just again, just to echo what she said, consistency as much as possible, and take your time and pick a weekend, dibble dabble in LinkedIn. The best way you can figure out a lot of tech things or an app, it's just the same way, dibble dabble. Okay, you click on some things to see what works. Also use LinkedIn to your advantage. There's a lot of free resources on there and courses that you can take to either build your professional experience or to build your Microsoft experience. There's so many things. I can go on and on about this. So do your research and just continue to be consistent.
That's great. Do you have any recommendations on like what you should be putting on your LinkedIn profile? I know something that a lot of people do when they're preparing for industry fellowships is they kind of rebrand themselves and clean up their LinkedIn a little bit. What would you recommend that someone do put on their LinkedIn profile?
I would say all of your work experiences. That's the best place to start. So according to what's on your CV, nothing that actually contradicts your CV, right? Make sure that you put it on LinkedIn the same way. I would say that also for each job that you have, having a simple, short synopsis of what you did in that job helps. Not everyone has it, nor is it a requirement, but it helps give an understanding of what your skills and experience have been from just a high level view of what you are about from your LinkedIn. I think that another thing that you should post is also the conferences that you attend, as in be on people's feed. In order to be on people's feed, you need to actively post about what you're doing. And that means I've attended a conference, I looked at this article, I see this job as being great for my networks and connections. I think that the things that you should put on LinkedIn or articles, right? Or the fact that you finished certifications, as Tola mentioned, there's a lot of those great opportunities to get certifications. Or even if somebody has asking your professors or mentors and other people that you would ask for a letter of recommendation to also give you a direct recommendation on your LinkedIn by saying, hey, could you endorse me on LinkedIn for my leadership skills, for my service skills, or whatever that might be, right? So I think those are some of the key things that I would say you should use LinkedIn to highlight about yourself.
Also to add with that, some I feel like this also is depending on you, again, your personality, understand the kind of person that you are. You want to also showcase your personality to the world, right? So sometimes a quick summary of yourself at the top could be useful. Definitely, again, posting as often as possible. Make sure you clean up your LinkedIn. Take time and take professional photos. That's important. I know a lot of people take it slightly and say, okay, I'm just gonna slap whatever I used, take a selfie and put it on there. You want to make sure that you come off pretty professional. Some people, especially if you graduated or utilize some of your professional pictures that you took in for graduation, make your LinkedIn look attractive enough, but at the same time professional. You want to showcase your personality a little bit as well as your professionalism.
That's a great point. It kind of leads into my next question about what not to post on LinkedIn. We're such like a digital age right now. I feel like there's like all these different platforms and things. What do you recommend not putting on LinkedIn?
Not everything you post on Instagram or Facebook should go on your LinkedIn. I think that keep it professional. That's why there's a specific designated platform for professional networking, professional engagement, meaning that should be the basis of every post that you do. You don't know who's watching it. You don't know people's religious beliefs, political beliefs. You don't know their just idea of what they consider to be totally unacceptable or inappropriate, meaning you're setting up yourself for something that's probably not even worth posting to be viewed by a potential employer or recruiter as somebody who's not serious about what she's doing or what he's doing. So I would say that keep it 100% professional. I'm not saying that, like, I've seen people post about their marriage or their home purchases, but all of those things kind of add to your professional value and to what Tola said, contribute to your personality. It's still, to an extent, it's personal, but you might feel like that's something I want to share. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, let's say that you are this way or that way on a political spectrum and you feel like you're going to go on a rant on I don't think that's a good idea personally, just because I feel like, again, you should just present your professional, most neutral self while also supporting valuable causes for yourself. Like I am very huge proponent, and Pharmacy Initiative Leaders is about advancing minority, specifically Black people in the pharmaceutical industry, in other fields of pharmacy. That's something that we're very proudly communicate. So that's not what I mean by radical. I think just you would understand when you're thinking about it, you're saying, I wouldn't share this. I wouldn't want my future employer to know. Don't post it on there. I would recommend staying away from inappropriate pictures. I've actually had a mentor or a mentee in the past who used to post a lot of selfies that were extremely just did not bring value to her LinkedIn, but just added as if it's kind of like not recognizing that this is a professional network. And I had to have those conversations as well. And she was very receptive, but I think that it's important, again, that you remember there are other platforms for a lot of things that you want to communicate, and LinkedIn is strictly professional.
To add to everything that Yanis just said, because that was absolutely phenomenal to sum things up. When it comes to messaging, I feel like people don't highlight this sometimes a lot, especially when you're networking, messaging people or professionals on LinkedIn. Take your time to do that. Don't message one sentences. Introduce yourself. I don't know who you are. You don't know who I am. So a quick introduction of who you are. If you have to make a template, I know LinkedIn usually generates an automatic template for you. Do not utilize that. I clearly know what that template is. So you want to go ahead and create your template on a Word document, copy and paste it if you have to. Go ahead and a quick introduction, what you're interested in, why you want to connect with me. Some people even say, thank you for connecting with me. I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Things like that just bring perspective, again, not only to your personality, but to your professionalism, because it shows that you're interested in the reason why you're connecting with these individuals. So messaging is also very important. So just want to kind of highlight that as well.
Yeah, I think exactly what you're saying. I think it's really important when you're building those relationships on LinkedIn to personalize those messages. I know exactly what you're talking about, getting one of those very like robotic, like automatic messages versus I got a really nice message the other day where this person was like, hey, I think I know you, I've heard of you from so-and-so, and all these really, really cool things about himself that he was sharing with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I feel like I made a really warm connection through the virtual screen. So there's lots of ways I think you can build your relationship with people on LinkedIn, and it's definitely like a lucrative platform to do so and to make those connections professionally.
One thing I would add to that, Marissa, and I love that because it just reminded me of how intentional you have to be when you reach out to people, especially when it's like, I remember when I was a fellow and I was a first year fellow and I put it on my LinkedIn that I was a postdoctoral fellow at Novo Nordisk. I was getting a lot of LinkedIn messages from students. And a lot of the times the reality is, as fellows, you would get a lot of them. And I think that Tola can attest to that, meaning as you go through with them, you get a lot more particular about who you choose to actually spend time communicating with, because some people will get your company name wrong, they will get your particular title wrong. So the intentionality is immediately kind of not as present and immediately noticeable when you're not taking the time to double check those things. So I would definitely recommend doing those things. But I think that you can also get a chance to add to what I was saying earlier about the use of LinkedIn. I would use it to learn about my potential employer hiring manager to see what do they post about? What are some of the things they're interested in? What articles have they previously liked? And why is that? Is because it shows you that your manager is very focused, or your potential manager is very focused on understanding some of the advancement or innovation a particular company is doing or their own company is doing. So you get a chance to talk about that a little bit more and say, hey, I just recently saw on LinkedIn that Nordisk is doing something in this field or whatever that might be. So I feel like it gives you even opportunities to start a conversation while showing that you're being intentional and doing your research thoroughly about who you're communicating with and what you're communicating about as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely critical. I've definitely been one of those people who's gotten a message and they called me Melissa instead of Marissa or something like that. And that's just one of those things. It's like, oh man, sometimes there's autocorrect. So just being paying attention to those things that happen when those messages is really important as well.
We're not going to mean girl them, we're not going to be like, why did you do that? Even when people would send my company name wrong, I would say it's Novo Nordisk and correct them. But again, no matter how much you give people grace, in a world where there's so many tools available for you to double check and triple check what you're sending to people, it still leaves a little bit of a bad taste in people's mouth, and depending on the person, worst taste. So
Yes.
Just being a little bit considerate, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And you also touched on something too, which was another question I had that I've also received from people. Is it okay to connect with fellows or program directors if you're interested in applying for that specific program?
Oh, I mean, the reality is there are some programs where they have fellowship directors that are very open. And I've had an experience where I've reached out to when I was going through the fellowship program directly to the fellowship director and said, I'm very interested in your program. I was not able to find other information for the fellows. I want to learn about, the company and you. And they were very open. There are some fellowships where there's so many fellows that the fellowship directors kind of leave it to the fellows. So you would almost have to surpass a lot of fellows that are underneath them to get to the fellowship director. And sometimes they're like, use my fellows, that's why I have them, right? So it depends on the company. But I think the best thing about being a student, the best thing about a person who's young and just getting out of school is that, and I don't mean young in age, but young in career, is that people cut you slack. They're not going to be like, why did you message me? The worst they will do is just ignore the message. So I think that it never hurts for you to reach out, despite the fact that you feel like, I should probably not reach out to the director. What's the director going to do? Look at your name, be upset that you messaged them? Not really, right? They're going to be very open and respond to you, or they're going to say, I'm going to refer you to my fellow. But at the end of the day, either way you put it, they're now been exposed to your name. They've now seen your LinkedIn profile photo. And when your name comes across their desk again, they will most likely be like, oh, I remember that name actually. And the value, it might not be that high, but at least the exposure and remembering who you are is also just very important piece. So I think yes, to directly reaching out to fellows, absolutely. That's actually fundamental. You should always reach out to the fellows of the program if they have a fellow. If they don't have a fellow, you should definitely reach out to the director. Even if they have fellows, if you can, sometimes reach out to the director if you want to learn more from leadership perspective of the particular company. I would say specifically for one-year fellowships where the fellow only has 1 year to work with their director and you want to learn more about the program and the leadership team and the rest of the team of the company, reaching out to the directors, it makes even more sense. So I feel like the worst that can happen is getting a no, and that's never a bad thing. So absolutely.
So in addition to that, I feel like one of the things that I find major would be reaching out to people who are in the positions that you see yourself in the future. That's what I did. So fellows are amazing. 100% reach out to your fellows, reach out to the program directors. But if you see yourself in a position in the future, for example, you want to be an MSL, reach out to an MSL because you want to understand that, am I going into the fellowship that I know for a fact that I want to do for the rest of my life or for long term at least? Talk to them. How is your experience? What is your day-to-day job experience? You want to understand that. I kind of even reached out to some of these people as well when it came to CVs. I wanted them to review my CV. These are people who are already working in the role that I want to be in the future, right? So I reached out to them as well and connected with them as well, kind of see that scope of it. So, but for your fellowship, at least, you're definitely like, it's expected for fellows. Now, again, as Yanni said, I am swamped with messages on LinkedIn on a day-to-day basis, but we're here to help you because we were in your shoes as well.
I think you both dropped some really good gems. And I think, when you're reaching out on social media, on LinkedIn, it can be like awkward if you're not like used to doing that. But I think it really does show how interested you are in the program and how you really want to learn and how eager you are. And I think it's good. I mean, the worst that can happen is they say no, or like you said, they ignore your message or something, but at least you made that effort to try and find out more information. So thank you guys so much for all of the information and all your advice on how to utilize LinkedIn. Anyone watching this video, feel free to connect with any of us on LinkedIn, where we'd be happy to talk to you and answer any more questions that you have. But stay tuned for the next series or the next video in this series. And thank you for watching today.